Without further ado, guys, let's get it going here. So this is the first edition of Kicking and Zooming Player Coach Series. I'm your host, Anthony Totera, and I am in Football Development Department in Canadian Premier League. It is without hesitation, it is my pleasure to welcome our special guest from Atlético, Ottawa, Antoine Coupland. Antoine, welcome, my friend.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. And we've got another special guest, a guy who you know quite well. And This is a guy that I've got to meet the last few years. He's done a lot of good work out in the Ottawa area. From St. Anthony's Ottawa Club, Sanjeev Parmar. Sanjeev, welcome, my friend.
Thanks, Anthony, for having me here.
Hey, pleasure is all mine. So, guys, let's get it going. We want to do this series with players and coaches and talk about the journey to where you started, Antoine, and where you are now as a professional and how you got there, the ups and downs, the challenges, and all the good things that came with it. So let's talk first, Antoine, about your development. Let's go way back. Let's talk about some of the things in your development that you had challenges with, that you had to overcome. And how did you overcome them? How did you get through that mental block of overcoming something that was giving you difficulty on the field?
Okay, so let's take it back to when I was about 11 years old. This was at the time where I was playing for close to my community, which was Cantley Soccer Club. And I had just finished a really good year. I was the top player on my team. And there was actually this coach who had played semi-professional. I think his name was Fernando. And he actually told me that I should go play somewhere in Europe. And at that point, I was like, okay, I can't go to Europe directly. Like, I'm only 11 years old. So someone had actually referred me to Futuro Soccer Academy, which at that point, Sanjeev was the coach of the U12s, which was the team I was going into. So I went to Futuro. The first day, I was super nervous. I'm actually an anxious kid. So I was super, super nervous. And I got in there, and I was one of the worst players on the field, to be honest with you. I was not the best. I had some basic skills, like I had the basics. I could run, I could move side to side, but the big part in my game that was missing was the skills part. So I was missing a lot of skills. So at that point, I was probably one of the worst players on the team. And I had actually been placed on the second team. There was two teams, Futuro teams at that point. I was on the second team. And so at that point, I was like, okay, this is a major setback from what I was before. So how do I get on that first team? And how do I get better as a player? So at that point, I put into my mentality that hard work was necessary. And I used that. I was training all the time. I did some extra sessions. I went sometimes with the older guys, which Sanjeev had actually invited me to, which was really good for my development. And I just put in my mentality that I had to be the best player everywhere I went. And so I worked hard, and that's what got me over that challenge. So
that's awesome to hear, Antoine. Sanjeev, let's talk about the way you run your sessions. I noticed in one of your sessions that I was there a year ago watching just before I was presenting to your club, that you let the players, and Antoine, you can interject on this as well. I'll let Sanjeev answer, that you give them freedom. You let them have free expression, free style of play, almost unrobotic, where you would see a lot of training sessions today. The players are run like robots, do this, do that. I noticed that you let them have their freedom. Talk about that and how you go about letting them enjoy that part of the game.
Yeah, it's a nice observation you made during our training sessions, probably from one of the ball mastery sessions that we were running when you were there. Our whole emphasis is on individual development first, because the players that come to us, it's not the end of their careers, it's the beginning of something. We're trying to build a foundation. To build a foundation, kids need problem solving. And if you don't allow them to problem solve, then they're never really going to get to another level where when they go to another system, when they're asked to, as a defender, to create get out of a situation, how are they going to solve that problem if we don't give it to them? So we give them a structure. It's a very heavily based on 1v1 to start with. And we give them some ideas, but end of the day, it's up to them how they want to make that, what they're going to do with that skill that they have. So, we might give them 15, 20 different 1v1 moves, and we might bring out a few of them during a training session. But then they have the option out of these moves, which one are you going to use in this specific situation? So that's where the freedom comes in, right?
So Antoine, that's got to be pretty cool to know that you have coaches that are letting you express yourself on the field, whether in training sessions, in games, and you're not afraid to make a move. You're not afraid to do something that maybe you were, not told to do when you were a little bit younger. How great is that, especially now under the Atlético Ottawa logo there, where you see these magicians playing in Spain. You're able to show that more and more.
Yeah, well, for sure. The coaches, Sanjeev, when I think of other coaches, Jed also, they've always given me that freedom. And especially the fact, not only that I'm an attacking player, like I play as a number 10, I play different positions. So that's another of the things that at Futuro we have. So you don't only focus on playing one position. So I started off as a winger, and then slowly I became an attacking midfielder. So you always have that freedom, and especially in the last third. And I think those coaches helped me build that confidence, and having that freedom in the last final third gave me that confidence to take on players. And by taking on players, you get better and you get better. And then when you get to goal, you have freedom to finish however you want, whichever you want, way you want. It's a chip, a scoop, you bend it, hard finish, however. So I think that's helped me a lot in my career, and I think I will continue to have that and to bring that to the new side at Atlético Ottawa.
So Sanjeev, the first time you laid eyes on this young man, this star player that's going to be playing in the Canadian Premier League this season, was there something that stood out to you? Was there a confidence issue maybe that he lacked? Was there maybe, an ability physically that he needed help with? What did you see that he had that was special aside from some others? And what did you see also that he needed to work on?
Yeah, it's a good question. When he first came in, the expectations were actually really high because someone had mentioned to me that, hey, look, this kid could play in Europe. So right away when someone says that, that's you're expecting a lot, right? So he came in, he was participating in the session, and I noticed he can move well. He can move left and right laterally very well. He was quick and explosive and lots of energy. But the thing that he really lacked was the ability to express himself with different types of moves, to beat players in different situations. So he was trying to use his quickness to beat players, but there was no real move this way to move that way, be deceptive. So right away I identified that, look, we got to work on ball mastery because that's something that you're lacking right now. And with your athleticism, if you add that ball mastery, it can be incredible, obviously.
Antoine, let's talk about now the lifestyle of a professional footballer, and also before you're a professional footballer. Obviously now you know that your body is your temple, physical training is key, nutrition, where, in years past, that maybe wasn't taken as seriously. How important is it now that lifestyle change for a young professional like yourself is instilled in you day in and day out to get to where you want to be, which is at the highest possible place for a professional player like yourself?
Well, I think it's very important, and being a professional also means sacrificing a lot of things. So I think as a professional, I've learned I didn't necessarily have that much importance before when I was playing maybe with Futuro, but as I became a professional, I learned that it's very important to have good sleeping patterns. You have to go to bed early, even on a game day. Don't sleep all day. So those are some sacrifices. You also have to keep a healthy diet. You have to eat well. You have to make sure that before game days you eat well. You eat pasta or something like that. So those are sacrifices that are really important. And if you want to step up your game and be at the next level, then you have to make those sacrifices. We also talk about recovering. So after practice, since you're training every single day as a professional, you have to stretch out your body and take care of your body and massage it, or even if you have a foam roller at home. So those are some things that as a professional, you need to learn to kind of bring into yourself as a person off the field in order to be successful and be at the highest of your level.
Talk to the young players out there that are listening and watching you right now, Antoine, on how focused and how important it is that you allocate your time throughout the day, day in and day out, in regards to school, and then in regards to training, and then there's also travel, game days, on and on. It's got to be absolutely at the utmost importance in how you juggle each and every part of that life. Is mom and dad helping you? Is someone helping you? Have you taken it on yourself to really organize each and every day?
Well, I have an amazing and they support me day in and day out. My parents are my number one fans. They help me so much with everything. And I think you mentioned school. So school is a big part of my life, because also for myself and for my parents, it's very important to have an education and to have a university degree. So I think it comes from myself, where I have to put into myself that when I'm not training, or when I'm not running, or when I'm not in the gym, then I have to be studying. And my parents definitely help me with that. They sit down with me, they help me. So that's very important. So yeah, sacrifices is the big word to use.
Have you ever had to be pushed by your parents, or is this something that's always been inside of you to get where you are today? Talk to the young players out there, because I know as a parent of two boys, I never had to push my sons to get the games or training sessions. I left it up to them. Were you ever pushed, or was it always your decision on going to games and training because you wanted this?
Well, football is my passion, and it's what I love to do. So it all comes from me, the hard work, everything. For example, during this quarantine time, I'm training daily. We also have Atlético Ottawa. We're doing Zoom calls, which helps a lot. And we have running sessions individually, obviously. So I'm always training. I always have that mentality of hard work. And whenever your coaches tell you to do something, you always do an extra rep, and you have to never cheat yourself. And that's into my mentality, and it's always been myself. When I have the chance, I say, Dad, can you drive me to the soccer field? I just want to go. I just want to go play. I just want to go work on, for example, my right foot, or I want to work on my finish from outside the box, or 1v1 skills. So it's always in me, and I will always want to be on the soccer field.
Sanjeev, let's talk to the young coaches out there. Let's talk to the young players out there. The game has changed in the last 10 to 15 years, but has it really changed? Are the simple things still the important things? We know that analytics are starting to play a huge part in the game. Video is playing a massive part of the game. The nutrition always has played a part, but is still the simple things which are the important things, which is the motivation, the confidence, the skills, the coaches that, understand how to get to a player without yelling to them. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it a lot right there, but I think end of the day, first thing that a kid needs is passion. And if you don't have passion, it doesn't matter, because every kid has a dream when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. But then eventually things start changing as you get to teenage years, and reality kicks in, and social media kicks in, and friends, and everything else that doesn't matter kicks in. I think from a young age, if you have a passion, and from a coach's perspective, if we're able to provide them with the confidence to continue that passion, that means you have to develop their skills. And if you don't develop the skills early between the 8 to 12 years of age, then that passion it just fades away, because you haven't developed competence or confidence. And so you're not really able to now get to the next step, where coaches now expect more collective play and tactical ideas. So I think really important, and I think people know this. I think they just don't do it enough. That when you have little kids at 3, 4, 5 years of age, that you're actually working on physical literacy. When you're 6, 7, 8 years of age, you're doing functional movement skills so you can move properly. When you're 9 years old, 10 years old, your coordination is really good. And when you're 11 and 12, your skills are as good as they can ever be by the time you're 12 years old. And from 13 on, you're just refining all those skills that you've learned. And so this is the way I believe, and I truly believe it, and this is the way I coach it to every kid I ever see.
Well said. Antoine, let's talk about how comforting it must feel to have Coach Mista, General Manager Fernando, young guys that are now going to be taking on this major responsibility in a market like Ottawa, in taking control of Ottawa Atlético. A player like you that's young, and your squad for the most part is a very young squad. How good is that to feel confident that you have a young coach, you have a young general manager, you're young, and you guys are all in this together in this first year? It's got to feel comforting knowing that these guys understand. Mista just finished playing the game not too long ago. Fernando, part of the game with a world-famous club in Atlético. How important is that for your confidence in this first year in CPL?
Well, I think it's very important. And first of all, I'm grateful for them to have given me that opportunity to play for Atlético Ottawa, and being under someone, Coach Mista, who had himself experienced professionally, who played all across Europe, who also played in MLS in Toronto. And he has had experience also coaching U19 teams. For example, I was watching the other day Valencia. He was coaching Valencia U19. So I think having him as a coach and as a mentor is going to be something very special for me. And I'm very excited to learn from him. He's also left-footed, which is something that we have in common. So yeah, I'm very excited, and I'm looking forward to this season. We have a really good group of guys. The week when we went in Madrid, it was amazing. We've already started. I can already consider most of them as my brothers. I think I'm very happy with the team, and we're gonna go forward this season. I have a very good season.
Now, you use the word excited. Let's be honest. Come on, Antoine. Just me and you on here, and maybe another 40, 50 other young kids watching, listening. How exciting must it be right now to dream and possibly think that, hey, if I have a great year or two, that maybe, just maybe, the eyes of Atlético back in Spain are watching, and I might get that opportunity to play on the world stage. How cool is that, and how much is that in the back of your mind and your teammates knowing that, hey, this is the real deal here?
Well, I think it's something very special, obviously, to have those ties with Atlético Madrid in Spain. But I think for now, my main focus is really this season. I want to improve on myself as a player, and I want to have a very good season. I'm working hard. I'm doing everything for those things to align. And then, so I'm focusing on now, day to day, what I can do. I'm training everything. And then when that day comes, then I'll think about that. But for now, it's really about helping the team go forward and have a good first season in the CPL, and giving my contribution to Atlético Ottawa.
Great answer. Sanjeev, let's talk about building this young man, this young player, not just Antoine, but all the players in your club, and the general advice you would give to young players out there. When you're building this player, what are the 3 keys in your mind that you think that are vitally important for any young player to have success and become a pro, where we see now that Antoine is at?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I already kind of touched on one. Is I think passion is the most important. It's the first thing that leads to you actually working towards something. Persistence is extremely important. That you're constantly battling the mind that doesn't want to be out there. The days that where you just don't want to wake up and go out and train. Perseverance, and I think those 3 things added together equal possibility. And that's for me, actually, that's how I live my life. I call it the 4 Ps. But the possibility is there. Like, what is your dream? What is the ultimate dream? But it'll only become true if you add those 3 things up.
Let's talk about the family, Antoine. You mentioned your family and how important they are to you. Let's talk about some important people in your life, your family. And I'm sure that there were others that helped you, groomed you, gave you advice, gave you their thoughts on how things are going to unfold as you go down this journey in becoming a professional footballer. Let's talk about those early mornings when mom and dad got up to take you to training sessions, to tournaments, taking time out of their busy schedule, taking time out of their life to make sure that you were there and enjoying.
Yeah, obviously, there's a lot of very special people in my life. Starting with my parents, like not to favorite anyone, but especially my mom. She takes a lot of time for me. She drives me all the time in the morning. My dad has a very busy job. He's a vice principal of a school. But my mom, she takes a lot of time off of her job to drive me, to pick me up from trainings in the afternoon, to then drive me to school. So obviously my parents are very important. There's also my brothers and sisters who are always there to support me. They're there at every game to encourage me. And with the ups and downs, they always try to bring a smile to my face. And my brother also trains a lot of the time with me outside on the grass, or he comes to the soccer field to play with me. So my family is definitely the most important people in my life. And then there's obviously other people, Sanjeev, Jed, who have been mentors to me since, I'd say probably since I was 11. There's also Julian de Guzman, who gave me the opportunity to play professionally for the first time. And obviously now Fernando, who has welcomed me to the club and who has offered me a chance to play for Atlético Ottawa in the CPL. And there's also, I think, possibly Mista this season, who is going to be my coach. And I'm like I said earlier, I'm very excited to grow under Coach Mista.
Let's talk about training sessions as a young man, Antoine, and now as a professional. Obviously, as a young man training, you're trained a certain way with certain skills and certain, drills that the coaches would work with you week in and week out. And obviously now as a pro, things have changed dramatically. There's video involved, there's nutrition, there's phys, there's all sorts of things. What can you take as a youngster that you can now bring over to the program that has helped you, especially at a young age, that you can never forget?
Well, I think based on Futuro's philosophy, I think developing young players and especially technically, that's the biggest thing at Futuro. They for example, for the ball mastery, it's always about developing the player technically and his skills and how he can become better with his feet. And then as you become older and as you grow into the professional game, then there's more things that come in, like video analysis, tactics. When you're training, it's more you're training as a team, not as an individual. So I think I can definitely bring that individual development, technical development with me into the professional game.
Sanjeev, how cool is it now to see a former player of yours playing in the Canadian Premier League? 1 year in, and you're going to get to see a former player of yours playing in the Canadian Premier League. The door is now open for other players of yours and all of the players in the Ottawa region and across Canada to play in this league. How great is it that there is a league now for young men to aspire to play in, instead of always thinking about overseas and down in South America and all over? They can start here, and they can now be spotlighted and recognized by clubs like Atlético Ottawa and others.
Yeah, of course. It's the most important thing. I mean, as a kid growing up, I had the CSL. I had the Vancouver 86ers growing up, and here in Ottawa, we have Ottawa Atlético. I mean, Atlético is huge. It's as big as it'll ever get in Canada, I think. So, I mean, this is the greatest thing that's happened to Canadian soccer since CSL. There's a big void for the last 20 years. So I think for the young generation to be able to go out on a Saturday and watch their heroes, it's amazing. And obviously for our academy to see Antoine, we'll be there to support him, obviously, all the time.
We're talking about the journey, and that's why we decided to have a player and coach series. And we're talking about how they got to becoming a pro. Obviously, Antoine's got great size. He's very athletic. He is a guy that has worked on his craft, on his trade to become a professional. But not all young players are at that height. And some are a little bit, not at the height of his. And they lack that confidence. Do you feel now, finally in the year 2020, that things are finally starting to change in Canada and in North America, where the player of a little bit smaller stature is starting to get that same look, that same respect as others? Because, if we're honest and truthful about it, Sanjeev, the player at the early, smaller ages that is the tallest, the fastest, he gets on that team because of those things. But the player that's a little smaller, has got great feet, doesn't get that chance. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say. What you just said, it is true across the world, but it is not true in Futuro at all. Size doesn't mean a thing. And I can tell you, my favorite player as a kid growing up was Diego Maradona, and is presently Lionel Messi. And all the players that I would name are all the same size. So size has never mattered. I've made that very clear to kids in the past, that it doesn't matter if you're small or big. We don't look at your size. And end of the day, people will select bigger kids at 13 to 18 years of age. But at 18 years of age, everyone's going to grow up and become mature. So I always tell kids, these years between 13 and 16 are so critical that you stay with the game. And the late developers are actually the ones that eventually will probably have a much more successful career, just because they had those extra 3 years of development in their golden years of learning. So it's very hard for a 14-year-old or 15-year-old to understand that, because right now is the moment, and that's all they care about. And what they see now is what the world is. But reality is, when they get through that, they're going to be way ahead. And Antoine is one of the smallest kids on the field when he plays with kids that are his age at 16. So if you take it from that perspective, he's probably one of the smaller kids that would play in a league at 16 years of age, but he's amongst the best players in the country at his age. All right. So size doesn't mean a thing to me, as long as your athleticism is exceptional, as long as you can move very well, you have the lateral ability to move left and right, and agility.
Antoine, let's talk about some of your early training sessions as a pro. Were you not given the respect of some of the older players and just pushed aside? Were you given the respect by some? And how did you earn that respect if they weren't giving it to you?
No, well, obviously, when you come into a professional environment and you're only 15 years old, you're like just this little kid. Everybody calls you, "Hey, buddy, what's up, little kid?" Everybody says that to you. And then eventually, and you said it yourself, you have to earn that respect. And I think that comes with humility, and you have to be humble, and you have to work hard and prove everybody wrong. Because when you go in that first day and everybody's like, "Who's this little kid coming to training?" And then 30 minutes later, when you're on the field scoring goals against them, then they start to say, oh, okay, then he has talent. And then eventually, as you continue to train, then you earn their respect. And I think that came within maybe 2 or 3 months. And it wasn't easy. I was always in my corner by myself. Nobody was talking to me for all the training sessions. Only, I would say, probably towards the end of the season, then, when everybody sees those little joking around between, for example, Messi, Suarez, and Neymar, that only happened probably toward the end of the season, where I was having fun and being serious at the same time in training session, as opposed to at first, when I was really all the time being serious and working hard. I mean, that didn't change, but the fact that the camaraderie came in, that's what changed.
Let's talk about the city of Ottawa, the great city of Ottawa. I got a special place in my heart for Ottawa. I've spent a lot of time there in the last number of years. I've talked to a lot of youth clubs, went to watch a number of League One Ontario games, but also some pro games out there. It's a great city, and it's a city that understands the game. It's a city that enjoys the game, and it's a city right now that is on fire, ready and excited when and if that day comes, hopefully sooner than later, unfortunately, in the situation that we're in, to come and watch and support you and your teammates. Talk about the buzz. Talk about the excitement, because I got to tell you, Antoine, when I was there at the press conference and it was packed with young and old, the excitement in Ottawa was off the charts.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the fans speak for themselves. I mean, we do have a great city. We have TD Place is amazing. It's a big stadium. It's amazing. But I think that the fans speak for themselves. They're amazing fans. From my time at the Fury, they were always there. They always supporting. I think at my debut, they held a standing ovation for me, and that was just something that's sensational. And I truly believe that we have the best fans in the league, and that there's so much excitement. And this year, the fans are going to continue to support us, even if the name changed. So I think it's going to be a great season for us, and I think we're going to give back to the fans. So,
what is the player that, when you're watching a game, that you really want to focus in on? Is it a player that is experienced, a young player, a player that is the flashy Ronaldo or Messi? Who are you watching when you're watching that game to learn from?
I'd probably say Messi, because he's my favorite player. Obviously, he's left-footed just like me. His finish is amazing, and I try to perfect his perfect bend on the ball with the left foot. I try to perfect that all the time in training, when I train on my own, and just his movements, his dribbling, his side to side. I try to replicate his skills on the field or when I'm training. His movement is also amazing. He has that ability to play different position and play kind of that free role, and just and dribble and do everything himself with having his teammates supporting him. So that's the player I love to watch, and most of the time, obviously I love Barcelona, but I love to focus and watch Messi.
Absolutely. Sanjeev, let's talk about communication and how key and important that is today with these young players. They want to understand why you're playing them in this position, why maybe they're not playing enough, why they're playing in this way. How important is it today to have that communication line consistently open, not just with the players, but also with the parents?
Yeah, for sure. I think players need to know why, like in our philosophy, for example, we play players everywhere. They might start at 9 years of age as a striker, but 3 weeks from now, they might be a left back and center midfielder. And they do that constantly. They go through different positions because your body changes, mentality changes. Let's say you're a really fast player and everywhere in the world, you're going to be put as a striker. But for me, I'm going to take you out of that position because I want you to develop other skills. So Antoine's a prime example. When he was excelling, we took him to England as a left winger, and he scored 10 goals against 5 Premiership clubs and scored 5 assists. So he was part of 15 goals, in our 5 matches in England. He came back. We put him as holding midfielder. Anyone would say, yeah, keep him on the wing, let him score goals. That's what he does. But then I said to him, I said, we need to work on your 360 vision. We need to work on receiving in tight spaces and making good decisions. And the other one was his passing. So his passing range, we had to improve. So how do you do that? You throw him in the mix. And for me, someone's going to turn around and say to me, someone that's narrow-minded, say, well, my son's a striker. My son's a center back. No, your son does not go to school and only learn math. Your daughter does not only go and learn social studies and specialize that at 9, 10, 15, 17, 18 years of age. So if you're going to become the complete player by 27, 28 years of age in your development, then why do we have to take a kid at 16 and make him a striker when his body might grow another 5 or 6 inches and make him a completely different player? So for me, it's all about the holistic approach and developing all the different positions and getting a mindset around that.
Well said. Antoine, just before we wrap it up with a couple more questions, let's talk about some of your hobbies away from the field. Let's also talk about the things that you like to do when you're not training. Is there some online games, I'm sure, that you like to play, like some of the youngsters like today? Is there something that you like to do away from the pitch?
To be honest, when I'm not on the pitch, I'm probably on another pitch, which is quite funny. But when I'm not on the other pitch, then I'm probably doing online school. Well, for now, for example, it's not something that necessarily I love to do, but it's something that for myself and also for my parents, like I mentioned earlier, it's important to continue your schooling and to excel in school to eventually have that university degree. But other than that, I love to play basketball. I have a basketball net outside. Sometimes I just go running just for fun. I also like to play video games. I play NBA 2K. I play FIFA. I also play Fortnite for some of the younger kids who might like that. I also like to listen to music. I'm a big fan of music, mostly pop, rap, those kind of genres of music. So yeah, those are pretty much my hobbies.
Outstanding. Now, what's your go-to meal? What is your go-to meal that you like to have before a game or after a game? Something that you look forward to eating.
I'd probably say pasta carbonara. I don't
Oh,
know
I
if
like you already.
everybody. Yeah,
Bravo. Bravo.
my mom makes that, and she's really good. And I think pasta is very important, a very good meal to have before a game day. So I think that I would say that's my go-to meal for a game day.
So when you're here in Toronto and you're playing at York or you're playing Forge, you're going to come to my house. I'll make you a good plate of pasta and we'll chow down, you and I.
Perfect.
All right. Listen, Sanjeev, one more to you, and then we'll wrap it up with one last one for Antoine. Let's talk again, Sanjeev, about the training, the journey to get where Antoine is, because that's why we started this series. As we let you go and we wrap it up here, Sanjeev, what are the things you want to instill in some of the young players that are watching right now online and are listening? What are some of the things that you noticed way back when Antoine was with you, that he got it and he understood it, and that's why he's sitting where he is today? What are these key things?
Yeah, work ethic is the most important. Asking questions is huge. A lot of kids are just scared to ask questions. They think it's a stupid question. When I was a little kid, my dad used to say to me that there is no stupid question, because he was from India. And so I'll just leave you with a story. In India, when you travel, you never ask one person the direction, because they're going to say this way. And the next person going to say this way. And the third person going to say that way. So he would actually make me pick up my phone, because we had no internet, and I'd have to call my cousin to ask what the answer was. So that stuck with me. And with my kids, I've always said to them, why is the most important thing? So if you're inquisitive, if you ask questions and you want to know what you need to do to improve, and you're willing to work hard and you love what you do, then, hey, there's a recipe there.
Outstanding. Antoine, we'll wrap it up with you. I'm going to give you the platform. I'm going to give you the minute here to talk to these young players that are watching and listening to you right now. You talk to them. Tell them what you believe in your heart of hearts help you get to where you're at in your journey. Talk to them about what you feel is important to help them get to where you are.
Well, I think one of my key phrases is, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So that's always been one of my principles. So when you have a letdown or something doesn't go as planned, may it be off the field or on the field, then you have to get up and be stronger. And how you do that is you work hard, you put the hours in, and you make those sacrifices. When you're not at practice, you should be training, you should be practicing whatever you didn't do well in the game before, or you should be watching film, because I know at Futuro that all the games are filmed, and you should be watching your film and saying, how can I do this better? How can this movement be better? So I think sacrifices and work ethic are some values that I have that I encourage everybody to have. So yeah, and also perseverance. That's another big word. So always work hard, and when, like I said, when something doesn't go well, just work hard and make it work afterwards.
Outstanding. I got to tell you, Atlético Ottawa, you should be very proud of this young man, Antoine Coupland, that you're going to have on your roster this year, because the maturity is off the charts. He talks like a 40-year-old man, and he has it all in the right place, and he's ready to rock and roll. So, Antoine, listen, good luck to you, young man. We wish you nothing but success. Welcome to the Canadian Premier League. Welcome to Ottawa. And Sanjeev, continued success with your club, continued success with all the youngsters out there in Ottawa. And we hope, hopefully this year, if not, then next year we can see everyone in the stands supporting this club, because I think it is such an important city in the landscape of Canadian soccer. But as we close out, one last thing, we'll give out the trivia question. The first one that can answer it and get to the web king, the webmaster, I call him Nick, with this answer: who is the head coach of Atlético Ottawa? The first one in will win a prize from the CPL. Antoine, Sanjeev, it's been a blast. Guys, thank you so much. God bless. Stay safe, stay healthy. And I can't wait to see you out there play, Antoine, my friend. All the best.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Pleasure.
Anthony.
Sanjeev, good night, guys. Thank you
Good
so
night.
much to everyone joining us here.
Take care, everyone.